The young and the restless spoilers. Billy's descent into chaos. Genoa City was no stranger to power struggles, but this time, the storm brewing had a reckless edge. Billy Abbott, a man fueled by unresolved anger and a thirst for revenge, had set his sights on a nearly impossible target, Victor Newman. Billy's plan? A partnership with Phyllis Summers, a union that was equal parts bold and doomed from the start. Anyone with even a passing knowledge of Victor's power knew that taking him down required more than just determination. It required strategy, influence, and resources. Unfortunately, Billy and Phyllis lacked all three. Chelsea Lawson and Sally Spectra were the first to voice their concerns, warning Billy that this was not just an ill-advised scheme, it was outright dangerous. "Billy," Chelsea said one evening, her tone firm but concerned, "you need to stop this madness. You're not thinking straight." Billy scoffed, his jaw tightening. "I'm fine, Chelsea. I know what I'm doing." "No, you don't," Sally chimed in, crossing her arms as she stared him down. "You're letting your grudge against Victor blind you. You could lose everything, your career, your friends, even me." Billy flinched at her words but said nothing. Deep down, he knew they were right. But the fire of vengeance burned too brightly in his heart to extinguish. He felt compelled to act, even if it meant risking everything. Chelsea's warning. Chelsea wasn't one to give up easily. She had known Billy long enough to see through his bravado. He was hurting, and his need for revenge was a way to mask the pain he felt over past failures. But she also knew that this path could destroy him. One evening, Chelsea sat Billy down for a heart-to-heart. "Listen to me, Billy. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, not to Victor, not to Phyllis, not to anyone. Focus on what you have now. Sally cares about you. Your family cares about you. Don't throw it all away for some vendetta." Billy stared at her, conflicted. Part of him wanted to heed her advice, to let go of the anger and focus on rebuilding his life. But another part, a darker, angrier part, refused to back down. "You don't get it, Chelsea," he said finally, his voice low. "This isn't just about revenge. It's about justice." Chelsea shook her head sadly. "Justice? Or your ego?" Jill's perspective. Jill Abbott, Billy's mother and longtime protector, was also watching her son's actions with growing concern. Unlike Chelsea and Sally, Jill had seen Billy at his worst and knew just how far he could fall if left unchecked. "You listen to me, Billy," Jill said one afternoon, her voice sharp and commanding. "Victor Newman is not your problem anymore. He's not worth your time, your energy, or your future. If you keep going down this road, you'll lose everything you've worked for. Everything I've worked for." Billy clenched his fists but didn't argue. He respected Jill more than almost anyone else, but even her words couldn't fully douse the fire in his soul. "You're better than this," Jill continued, softening her tone. "I've always believed in you, even when you didn't believe in yourself. Don't make me regret that." A reckless partnership. Despite the warnings from those closest to him, Billy pressed forward with his plan. Phyllis was eager to help, her own vendetta against Victor serving as motivation. But the two of them quickly realized that they lacked the resources to take on a titan like Victor Newman. That's when Ian Ward entered the picture. Billy and Phyllis knew Ian's reputation, his ruthlessness, his cunning, and his complete lack of morals. But desperation clouded their judgment. Ian had the influence and connections they needed, and he was more than willing to offer his help for a price. When Billy arranged a meeting with Ian, Sally noticed his unusual behavior. She followed him, her heart pounding as she watched from a distance. Billy entered a dark, secluded building and was greeted by a man with a sinister presence. Sally's breath caught in her throat. "Who is that?" she whispered to herself. The man radiated danger, and the sight of Billy shaking his hand sent a chill down her spine. Sally's fear. When Billy returned home that night, Sally was waiting for him, her face pale with worry. "Who was that man?" she demanded, her voice trembling. Billy hesitated, torn between telling her the truth and keeping her in the dark. "It's none of your concern, Sally," he said finally, his tone defensive. None of my concern? Sally's eyes blazed with anger. Billy, I saw you. I saw you with that man. He's dangerous, isn't he? And you're working with him? What the hell are you thinking? Billy sighed, running a hand through his hair. I'm thinking about taking down Victor. Ian Ward is just a means to an end. Sally's expression turned to horror. Ian Ward? Do you even know who you're dealing with? That man is a monster, Billy. He'll destroy you the second you're no longer useful to him. Billy's jaw tightened. I know the risks, Sally. But this is my fight. Not yours. Not Chelsea's. Not Jill's. Mine. Sally shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. You're going to lose everything, Billy. And when you do, don't expect me to be here to pick up the pieces. The cost of revenge. As Sally stormed out, Billy was left alone with his thoughts. He knew she was right, everyone was right. But the lure of revenge, the chance to finally beat Victor, was too strong to resist. Ian Ward, for his part, was more than willing to fan the flames of Billy's anger. You have potential, Billy, Ian told him during one of their meetings. Victor thinks he's untouchable. But together, we can bring him to his knees. Billy nodded, though unease gnawed at him. Deep down, he knew he was playing with fire. But it was too late to turn back now. This version delves into Billy's internal struggle, his relationships with Chelsea, Sally, and Jill, and the growing tension as he partners with Ian Ward. Let me know if you'd like to develop any part further. The Devil's Alliance. Ian Ward was nothing if not strategic. His return to Genoa City wasn't a reckless gamble, it was a calculated move in a long game of vengeance. Victor Newman had humiliated him, cast him out, and left him for dead in the court of public opinion. But Ian was a survivor, and this time, he wasn't here to lose. Ian knew that Victor's list of enemies was long and varied. Men and women, cast aside by Victor's unyielding ambition, all harbored resentment and thirsted for revenge. Ian saw them as pawns in his game, useful tools to dismantle the empire Victor had built. Among these pawns, Billy Abbott stood out like a beacon. Billy's hatred for Victor was raw and unfiltered, born from years of personal slights and professional rivalries. Ian watched Billy from the shadows, studying him, analyzing him, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Billy's fall. Billy Abbott wasn't naive, he knew Ian Ward's reputation. But desperation had a way of clouding even the sharpest minds. His vendetta against Victor had consumed him, blinding him to the dangers that lay ahead. Billy wasn't just seeking revenge, he was seeking redemption, a chance to prove to himself and the world that he wasn't a failure. When Ian approached Billy with an offer of partnership, it felt like fate. Ian presented himself as an ally, a kindred spirit who understood Billy's pain and shared his goals. He painted a picture of triumph, of Victor Newman brought to his knees, his empire in ruins. What do you want from me, Ian? Billy asked during their first meeting, his voice laced with suspicion. Ian's smile was smooth, almost fatherly. I want nothing more than to see justice served, Billy. And I believe you do too. Together, we can achieve what neither of us could accomplish alone. Billy hesitated, the warnings from Chelsea, Sally, and Jill echoing in his mind. But the temptation was too great. Ian's words spoke to the darkest corners of his soul, to the part of him that craved victory at any cost. All right, Billy said finally, his voice steady. I'm in. The alliance grows. Ian wasted no time. He began recruiting others who harbored grudges against Victor, creating a coalition of the bitter and the betrayed. Some were former employees, others were business rivals or spurned lovers. To Ian, it didn't matter who they were or what their motives might be. All that mattered was their hatred for Victor. Billy quickly became Ian's right-hand man, his enthusiasm and connections proving invaluable. But while Billy believed he was an equal partner in their mission, Ian saw him as nothing more than a means to an end. To Ian, Billy was like a loaded gun, dangerous, but only as long as it served his purpose. The cost of revenge. Sally Spectra watched helplessly as Billy descended further into Ian's web. She had tried to warn him, but her words had fallen on deaf ears. Now, all she could do was stand on the sidelines and hope he realized the truth before it was too late. One evening, Sally confronted Billy at his office. "You're playing with fire, Billy," she said, her voice trembling with frustration. "Ian Ward isn't your friend. He's using you." Billy didn't look up from the stack of papers on his desk. "You don't understand, Sally. This is bigger than me. Bigger than us. Victor needs to be stopped." Sally stepped closer, her eyes filled with concern. "And what happens when Ian decides you're no longer useful? You think he's going to let you walk away? You're a pawn to him, Billy. Nothing more." Billy slammed his fist on the desk, finally meeting her gaze. "I don't care. If this is what it takes to win, then so be it." Sally's heart broke at his words. "You're going to lose everything," she whispered. "Your dignity, your soul, everything." But Billy didn't respond. He was too far gone. Ian's true colors. As weeks passed, Ian's plans began to take shape. His network of allies grew, and his schemes against Victor became increasingly bold. But beneath the surface, Ian was already laying the groundwork to discard Billy when the time came. Ian's confidant, a shadowy figure known only as Marcus, voiced his doubts during a private meeting. "Are you sure about Abbott? He's reckless. Emotional." Ian smirked, swirling a glass of brandy in his hand. "That's precisely why he's useful. Billy's anger blinds him to the bigger picture. He's the perfect distraction. By the time Victor realizes what's happening, it'll be too late." "And when Billy outlives his usefulness?" Marcus asked. Ian's smile turned cold. "Then he'll be discarded, like the foolish little pawn he is." The breaking point. Billy began to notice cracks in Ian's facade. Subtle shifts in tone, cryptic comments that hinted at a larger agenda. Doubt began to creep in, but his pride kept him from admitting it. He couldn't back out now, not when they were so close. One night, during a heated argument with Ian, Billy finally voiced his concerns. "What's your endgame, Ian? This isn't just about Victor, is it?" Ian's smile was thin, calculated. "Does it matter? We both get what we want in the end." Billy stared at him, the realization dawning. "And what happens when I'm no longer useful to you?" Ian didn't answer. He didn't need to. A moment of clarity. Sally's warnings, Chelsea's advice, Jill's wisdom, they all came rushing back to Billy as he left Ian's office that night. He had made a deal with the devil, and now he was paying the price. For the first time, he truly understood the danger he was in. But the question remained, could he undo the damage before it was too late? Could he find a way to escape Ian's grasp and reclaim his life, his dignity, and his soul? Billy Abbott was at a crossroads. One path led to redemption, the other to ruin. And time was running out.